Tori here for another 100 Days of Less Hustle, More Jesus, an illustrated faith devotional journal. And if you've been following along with me and the others working on it, we've been doing a day, one day, a day. That's funny. And I made it through the first few days. If you want to see the process videos for any of those, they're up on my channel. I have a playlist which is called 100 Days of Less Hustle, More Jesus, you can check out. Today I am working on day 9, which is a dare to downshift. And normally what I do is I come on here, talk, and then I spend some time by myself, but I thought it's actually easier because I'll have less editing to do if I spend the time by myself first and then I just come on to create, because then I don't have to cut and edit and blah. And because I'm in the process of doing a lot of stuff in my life right now, I wanted to make these videos as easy to edit as possible. So yeah, if they're not perfect, that's why, because I'm trying to keep it easy for myself. That's what moving to Africa will do to you. Anyways, so today was all about daring to downshift. And I read through the passage and I read through the verses, and then I went and I looked up the verses in other versions of the Bible. And for those of you wondering, I usually will look it up into 4 versions. They're kind of the ones that I find the most helpful. So I will look it up in the NIV, the New International Version, the ESV, the English Standard Version. I will look it up in the Message because I find that one really practical, but it's not necessarily the closest to the original, but I do look it up in the Message. And then I will also look it up in the NLTs, so the New Living Translation. And if you don't know this, I mean, I think people probably know this, but if you don't know this, you can download an app on your phone called the YouVersion app, and it's a Bible app, and on that Bible app you can switch between versions of the Bible. Like, they have all the different versions there, so if there's another one like King James or something else that you really like, you can just switch between versions right in the app. It's super easy. So that's what I do. I probably do, if I looked around my house, probably do have multiple versions of the Bible, like ESV, NIV, and the Message, but it's just a lot easier to do on the app. So today I thought I would keep it simple-ish, and just use some stickers to put down my message today, of what stood out to me. And I grabbed this One Canoe 2 sticker book. I love this thing. There are so many stickers in there. Like, there's 1,500 stickers in there, and I have used it lots and loved it lots, but there's still lots more, which I love. So I thought I would just kind of make a sticker collage of what I'm doing here. One thing I wanted to say is the thing that really stood out to me today in this Dare to Downshift was this idea of like resting and being restful in the Lord. And I read through this little prayer that Shanna has added at the bottom of the page, and this stood out to me so much. Like, I wrote like yes next to it because it was like exactly what was on my heart, and I think it was exactly what the Lord was trying to say to me today. Jesus, I carry so much that you never intended me to. I need your wisdom to make priorities and your grace to heal perfectionism. Thank you for never giving up on me. And I think the reason, and I'm just going to talk while I create here, I think the reason that that really stood out to me was that lately I just feel like there has been so much on my plate, and I don't necessarily feel like I know how to like take a moment to just breathe and not be stressed out by all of the things going on, if that makes sense. And I just feel like I'm struggling because I'm taking on too much, and it's kind of hard for me to figure out what is the best way to like downsize, like in my life, if that makes sense, like to take on less priorities so I'm not feeling stressed all the time. And so I just want to like spend some time with the Lord and just like calm it down a little better and like get better at like making priorities for myself. And the thing is that like there's always gonna be more that we could say yes to. Like, there will always be more things that we could agree to do. People will always want us and want our time. And we could probably always say yes to that, you know? And the point is not that we should. The point is that we should take a break and like take some time to be with the Lord and not let our priorities get out of whack. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we let them get all over the place, and we shouldn't do that. We should like calm our lives down so that we can actually spend time with the Lord, and so that we can enjoy the things that we do, because the truth is, if we have too much on our plate, we're not going to enjoy it, because we're always going to be feeling stressed and overwhelmed by everything that we have going on. So I want to use these gold letters to spell out the word priorities. I'm just making sure that I have each of the letters that I need. I don't have an S. I'm going to use a 5. I'm going to get creative. So anyways, but this whole idea of like reorganizing our priorities actually has been like on my heart and mind for a little bit. I was meeting with my missions mentor, so somebody who's mentoring me as I prepare to go out on missions. And we were actually talking about this whole idea of priorities. We were talking about how we should create like some guidelines for making decisions. So like coming up with a list of things so that when somebody asks us to do something, we before we answer yes, like, which is sometimes our first move. Well, for me it is. For other people, maybe their first move is to say no. And that's not good either. Like, we shouldn't just say yes right away. We probably shouldn't say no right away either. So to come up with some guidelines for priorities and some guidelines for saying yes or no to things. And I was thinking what a good idea that it was. And I was sitting there thinking that, and then we finished our conversation or whatever, and we finished our lunch and went about our day. But I actually wanted to sit down and spend some time coming up with some guidelines for priorities. And like healthy, God-honoring guidelines. Does that make sense? Like, not just, if I don't want to do it, I won't do it. But like, what does it look like to make a decision in the right way? I hope that makes sense. So anyways, I was thinking now would be the perfect time to do it, because today's passage was all about like spending time with the Lord and making sure that we don't take on too much. So this 5 kind of looks like an S. It's not perfect, but you know what? I don't even care, because I really wanted to say priorities. I probably could have just said priority, but I wanted it to say priorities. So it's going to be like the guidelines for priorities or something like that. Not exactly sure. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. And I would encourage you to do this for yourself too. Like, maybe you don't do it like in your illustrated faith devotional. I mean, you don't need to do that. You don't need to go to that level. But to think about what does it look like to slow your life down a little bit and to make decisions in a God-honoring way, to not carry more than he intended to have wisdom with our priorities, and wisdom to make priorities and decide what are the priorities. So this may seem a little overkill, but I have to spell out the word like on the side just to make sure that I spell it right when I stick it on here and for the video. And also just to make sure that I have enough letters before I start, because I have many a time started writing and or started sticking down letters before figuring out that I did not have the right number of letters for my project. Okay, I do have the right number. Priorities, guidelines for priorities, the priorities guidelines. What was I thinking here? I think guidelines for priorities. Or maybe like godly guidelines and priorities. Okay, I think that's what I'm gonna do. I should have thought that out beforehand, but you know. I'm gonna start from the back of the letter, or the back of the word. Anyways, as I'm sticking this down, I would love to know if you have some guidelines, like if you have something that helps you make decisions, like helps you decide whether or not you should do something. I would love to know what they are. So if you would be willing to leave a comment below, sharing that with me and others, I would really appreciate it, because I think this is one of those things where we can kind of help each other, like figure out what this looks like, to not take on more than we're supposed to, and to like let God be our guide when it comes to our guidelines, instead of letting our like emotions take over, which is usually what happens, I think. Like somebody comes to us and needs help, and they come to us and they say like, hey, I need help with this thing that you're really good at. And we're like, yes, okay, sure, because we want to feel needed. And if we have a gift for something, we often feel like we have to say yes. I know that's definitely something that's one of my struggles, is like if I'm good at something, like let's say somebody said, Tori, we really need help decorating for this party, and we know how good you are at decorating. Like not only would I feel flattered that they asked me, I'd be like, yeah, I do enjoy decorating for parties, and I do have the skills and capabilities, also the tools to make that happen. So then I feel this like need to do it. You know what I mean? And like that can be good if I have the time to do it. But that looks wrong to me. Guidelines. Okay, I think it's right. I think it's right and it's not wrong, but so I have this like urge to do it, and that can be good, but like in my life right now there's so much going on that like sometimes it's not always healthy to just say yes to things because you have so many other things on your plate, and some of those things are like more necessary for you to do right now, if that makes sense. Like a little while ago, so I got an email from this charity, and they asked me to join their gala decorating committee. And it's like they hold a gala every year to raise support for their charity. And I have helped in the past, and I loved helping in the past. It was so much fun. But like I am like in the process of getting ready to move. I'm in the process of like packing my life up, finishing up at my job, all of that. And like as much as I like totally wanted to say yes because I enjoyed it and I'm good at it and I had fun last year, like it just would not have been healthy for anybody if I said yes to that. And then I would have ended up not doing a good job for them or for like the other projects that I'm working on. Does that make sense? So we have to be careful that we're not just taking things on because we feel like we should, but taking them on because we actually should. Anyways, I'm going to also add the word and here. So godly guidelines and priorities. Sorry you have to watch me stick down stickers, but I am not fast forwarding through this. Almost done. So I've been thinking as I put these down, what are some of the guidelines that I should have for prioritizing or for saying yes to things. So there's lots of different ones, and you have to figure out what works for you and your life, obviously. Like, you shouldn't just do the ones that I suggest. You should do ones that make sense for you and what you believe is right. Not crazy about that space there, but I'm just gonna leave it as is. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to use some of these clear stickers, these clear florals from this One Canoe 2 sticker book, and kind of stick them down around this, and kind of just to add some design to it. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to write down some of those godly guidelines and priorities. And I actually think I'm going to skip ahead for this just because it might take me some time just to spend doing that. And I also kind of want to do it like spend time like praying and talking to the Lord about it while I do it, if that makes sense. And then write down those godly guidelines and priorities like by myself, and then I'll come back. Not sure what's happening with my O there, but I'll fix that. I want to spend some time with just me and God while I work on this, and then I will come back and show you and talk through the godly guidelines and priorities that I started for my list here. But I think that this might be one of those things that it's like a lifelong journey of discovering how to find godly guidelines and priorities. So yeah, okay, put down that O super crooked, so let's fix that. And I will skip ahead here so you guys don't have to watch me deliberate. Okay, so I started my list and I got some good things down here, I think. But I would still love to hear what you guys have in your list, if you have a list, or if there are some things come to your mind. I would love to know. So make sure you leave a comment for me to tell me what you came up with, because I think we should learn from each other. So I wrote down a couple of things, and I'll just share them with you because I said I would, and I feel like we can learn from each other. So I started here, and then I ran out of space, so I came back up here. But you know what? I think this is going to be one of those things that's like a lifelong journey of discovering how to create godly guidelines and priorities. But here's some things that I think I should just ask myself. When somebody says, Tori, will you do this? First, I should ask myself these questions before I say yes. So, number one, does this honor God? And I think that's important because I want my life, like I truly desire for my life to be God honoring. And if I'm gonna say yes to something, I gotta make sure that it actually like aligns with what I desire my life to be about. Does that make sense? So number one, does this honor God? Number two, have I prayed about this? As in, like, have I actually taken the time to pray about it, or am I just saying yes because somebody just asked and they're looking at me with those puppy dog eyes and I feel like I should say yes? So have I spent some time praying about it? The next one is, do I have a peace about this? Like, I think that, like, while you're praying, God will give you some feeling as to whether or not this is something you should do. And if you don't feel at peace with it, it probably means that maybe he doesn't want you to do it. So do you have a peace about this? Can I use my God-given gifts and talents? So, like, is this something that God has gifted me uniquely with the ability to do? so that I can bless others and bring others to him. And that's kind of the next one too, is will this bring me or others closer to the Lord? Because that's also something I want my life to be about. So I'm going to stick down the sticker, and then I'm going to have to trim it off, but that's okay because I wanted a really big one there. So does this bring me or others closer to the Lord? If I say yes, am I taking away a learning opportunity from someone else? And this one is actually one of those ones that's come from like life experience. I've discovered over time that sometimes we feel like we should say yes, and that our God-given gifts actually would work in this setting, and we feel like we should say yes, but sometimes us saying yes means that somebody else doesn't step up to the plate to do it, and somebody else is missing an opportunity to learn from that experience. So for example, I used to always feel like I had to say yes whenever they said they needed someone to help with Sunday school, and I was like, oh, I have to say yes because I'm good at it and the kids know me and I know how to do it and I'm good at it. But I was just feeling so overwhelmed with life that I finally said no for like the first time ever. Like, I'm sorry, I can't do it. And what ended up happening was that somebody else who had never taught Sunday school stepped up to do it, and they were incredible. Like, they learned so much, and they grew like crazy because of it. And it was such an amazing thing to see this other person who had never taught Sunday school stand up to do it and offer to do it, and like they grew like crazy. And it just made me think that like if I had said yes, I would have been taking the opportunity away from her to like grow and learn and to just like be really blessed by teaching Sunday school. So, and I mean, sometimes I think that can be a cop-out, so we have to be careful that we're not using it as a cop-out. But like, I think it's something good to consider, that possibly us saying no would mean that somebody else could have the opportunity to do it and learn and be blessed by that. Does that make sense? So, yeah. If you have questions about any of these, let me know below and I'd be happy to clarify. Clarifying questions or whatever. The other thing that I was thinking about is, there were two other ones. Do I have time? As in, like, do I have time in my schedule to do this? So if somebody needs me to do something every single Wednesday, but every single Wednesday I already have Bible study, well, like, obviously the answer is no, because I do not have the time to commit to doing this thing that they need me to do. And that's not a bad thing. It just means that we're like looking, do we actually have the time in our schedules to be able to help with this? The next one is, do I have other commitments that maybe get in the way? And that's part of it too, because I think it's really important that we keep our word. So if we've already committed to do something for someone, will signing up to do this thing mean that I have to break a commit with someone else? And I believe it's important for us to keep our word. So if we said that we were going to do something, we should definitely do it. So that means that we need to make sure that when we say we're going to do something, we can actually do it. So do we have time? But then the other one is, if we say we're going to do it, we can't just drop it because a better offer comes along. Does that make sense too? Because sometimes I think we say, oh yeah, I can do this thing, and then somebody else says, hey, you want to help me with this thing? And it's something that we'd much rather do. And then we're like, oh, okay, well, I'll just have to drop this other thing that I committed to doing, which isn't good either. So anyways, those are kind of the ones that I came up with to help me have godly guidelines and priorities. But if you guys have any of the other ones, I'd love to hear it in the comment section below. And I think with those, keeping this prayer at the top of our mind, Jesus, I carry so much more than you ever intended me to do. I need your wisdom to make priorities, and just remembering that I need his wisdom to do all of this in the first place. So yeah, anyways, that's it for me today. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Let me just make sure you can see it really well. I hope that you enjoyed this quick devotional, and that you guys are enjoying following along with the 100 days of Bible journaling. If you are, if you're not following along, you can still enjoy the videos. That's not a problem. I have a playlist on my channel for all the other ones if you want to check them out. Otherwise, make sure you're subscribed to my channel so that you don't miss any other videos that I have. I know some of you are probably thinking, hey Tori, can you make other videos? And eventually I will. But I really wanted to work through this 100 days of Bible journaling and Less Hustle, More Jesus. And then I'll get into some of my other crafts and good things. So anyways, that's it for me today. Thanks so much for joining me, and have a lovely day.